This is Ricky Matthews. Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. I hope you're having a great day as we continue to celebrate so many amazing people who are working hard in the trenches to make this such a great place to live, work, and play. I'm thrilled today to have Adele Lyons joining me for the whole show. You may or may not know this, but she has decided to move on from the Mississippi Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce, the Coast Chamber, where she's been to the day, 9 years. And someone that I've worked with in the community for so many years. I hate to remember how many years it's been. But anyway, yeah, we're going to look back a little bit. We're going to talk about some upcoming events. She's still, working in the role. So there's a lot to talk about the here and now, but there's some beautiful things to think about looking back. So Adele, how have you been, my friend?
I've been good. Just trying to do the regular job and do a good transition.
I tell you, as I was thinking about the show today, the first thing that happens when I think about you for whatever reason, the reason, obviously, but I don't know why just this, because if you go back in your tenure with Habitat for Humanity, Knight Foundation, and other roles that you've had, the incubator effort that you were involved with. I mean, so much that you've been involved in. But when I think of you, I think of Alberto Ibargüen, my dear friend Alberto Ibargüen. For people who don't know who that is, the former CEO for the Knight Foundation and a dear friend. He was a publisher at the Miami Herald and El Nuevo Herald when I was coming up in my career, and then I became publisher at the Sun Herald. But we were very close, and he more than once tried to get me to come to Miami, and was here on the ground after Hurricane Katrina within a matter of days, and made such a tremendous commitment over those months and years that followed. But I just think about him. When I think about the Knight Nonprofit Center, I think about Alberto. But, the thing that hits me, Adele, is you and I have been through so many iterations of our lives, kind of parallel with one another through the trials and tribulations of coastal Mississippi. It's in some ways it seems like it was yesterday. In some ways it seems like it's been 50 years. I don't know how to look at it. But when you look back, not just at your time at the Coast Chamber, but just your time as a leader in coastal Mississippi, what kind of things pop into your mind?
Well, I think back to when I was at Southern Miss and I was graduating, and I decided to go to graduate school and get an MBA, and just stayed in Hattiesburg for another year and a half to do that. That was something I always had a goal to do, and I just thought, let me just stay here and do this right now. I felt like if I left and started working, I don't know that I would ever have gotten back into that. And so when I graduated, or when I was in graduate school, I was lucky enough to get a job with USM, but here on the coast in the summer, so that I could be at home and be on the coast. And it was at the Small Business Development Center that was there on the Gulf Park campus. So my very first professional boss was Becky Montgomery. Becky Montgomery Jenner was my first boss. When I started working there, she was gone for 2 weeks for her guard drill because she was involved in the National Guard. So my first 2 weeks, I didn't have a boss. And I just was kind of wandering around the office, trying to figure out what was going on, what was I going to do, trying to pick up some, projects and just sort of set my own pace, really. And then she got back in and she was like, no, that's great what you've been doing. And so then I did that for a couple of summers. And I mean, what a foundation to start with somebody like Becky, who's been a mentor and a friend to me since. And, I think I started on the right path, certainly with her. Becky was the one when the small business incubator was opening in Biloxi, said, you should go apply for this job. Now, at that point, I was working for her full time. So what she did was basically put herself in a pickle that one of her employees could potentially leave. She's got to fill, you got to go through the interview process, the training process, and all that. But she was looking out for my well-being. And so I applied for that job. I got that job. And I will tell you, I didn't realize till about 6 months in how over my head I was. I mean, I really was naive, and I was just kind of doing anything and everything we could to get the word out, because at that point, the facility had been open for a couple of months and there was 3 tenants. And that, that wasn't the plan. And so within about a year and a half, we got the place filled up and we had people coming and going out of there. And then I felt better about what I knew and what I could do, and a little more confident. I was confident at first because I just didn't know any better, to be honest with you. And, it's just interesting how you just go and start figuring things out. I stayed there for 15 years, and really it was we did an expansion. We saw companies graduating and moving out and being successful in the community. We really saw that facility do what it was supposed to do in the community, help grow and create our own businesses and entrepreneurs here on the coast, instead of the economic development mentality of trying to bring people into the area, that was, let's grow our own. And that was something that really worked out well. From there, it was after Hurricane Katrina where the Knight Foundation job came open. And
when was that? When was it? Yeah. When was that? What was the date of that?
That I moved?
Yeah, so, you went to the Knight.
It was after Katrina. I was there for Katrina. Luckily, we didn't have very much damage there. We had some roof damage, but we became a Red Cross facility where people were coming. They were telling people go online. Well, people didn't have a computer. They didn't have power. They didn't have internet access. So people had to show up. And, man, it was crazy. People were parked everywhere. They were up and down the streets, parking on the side of Pops Ferry Road, which at that point was 2 lanes. So people were basically parking in the ditches on the side of the street trying to get in there. The police came to me and said, look, you got to get these people out of here. I said, they're not going. They're not going. They're here for the Red Cross. Craig High from Neil Schaefer came and he said, we can't get the trucks through to get debris out. I said, Craig, I got them parked in the field. I got them parked, on top of each other, every which way. I don't know what to tell you. But that was kind of our response, what we could do. We had space. We at one point had blue roofs, the tarps there we were distributing. At one point I had 3 18-wheelers that rolled up and said, hey, we got these donations from some town somewhere, just sent them and didn't tell anybody. He's like, we got to get this unloaded. Well, it was me. So I start calling everybody I know to come over with a truck and unload. So it was, it was great to be able to help the community. But so I started December 2006 at the Knight Foundation, to answer your question before I got way off the track. So 2006, I started with Knight Foundation, and I went down for a board meeting. And the December board meeting was a big dinner at the Miami Opera House, because Knight was a big funder of that, and we had tables and we ate dinner on the stage in this empty concert hall. And I was seated next to Alberto, and I was so intimidated by him. He was the smartest man, still is one of the smartest people I've ever met. You could just sit and talk to him forever and just take it all in. But he was on one side of me and his wife was on the other side. So that was quite a treat for me to really get to know her right off the bat. And so for there, I was with Knight Foundation for about 5 years after that.
Yeah, I didn't remember the exact timing of that, but listen, Alberto and we've had full shows here on the show to talk about some of those days. And I had the opportunity to talk to him just recently. He's got a place in New York, so he's splitting time between New York and Miami. And my son, as you know, Justin, lives in New York, so he offered Ann and me his place anytime we go to New York. I'm not sure we'll take him up on it, but it sure is great to know that it's there. He's the kind of guy, he actually means it. He really wants us to use it, because there's certain times of the year he's not there enough. He was a tremendous influence on my son Justin, actually, at one point in his life when he was thinking about, he wanted to go into architecture. He wasn't sure what he wanted to do. Alberto spent some time with him, and they actually recently reconnected. So they're enjoying reconnecting with one another. But the opportunity, watching Justin's career flourish, to know that mentors like Alberto want to connect with him and want to stay in touch with him and influence him. And I just think it's such a beautiful thing, you know?
Yeah. So actually, I'm going, my sister lives in New York and I'm going to New York for Thanksgiving, which will be the first Thanksgiving I've not spent on the coast in my entire life. So I'm going to New York for Thanksgiving. So I may need to see if Alberto's in town and maybe, meet up with him just for a quick visit or chat. So
yeah,
that'd be nice.
Hey, when we get off the air, I'll check the last text I have. I have his schedule, so we can compare notes on that.
Right.
Yeah, it's cool. New York's a great place to visit. I used to visit there once a month for 7 years for board meetings at first in Times Square, but then when the new World Trade Center got built, we had all our board meetings there. And I don't miss it, but it's good to. Ann and I were there recently. Ann was back there with Tori recently as Justin and his girlfriend ran in the New York Marathon. That's their goal and aspirations, not mine.
Yeah,
7 miles is about back to me. We're visiting with Adele Lyons. When we come back on the other side, we'll continue to look back. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. We have the honor of visiting with my dear friend and longtime dedicated community servant, Adele Lyons, who gave her notice. She's leaving that CEO of the Mississippi Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce, the Coast Chamber. And is it clear now? Look, it's interesting because you give a certain notice, but you stayed around a little longer. So how's that going to play out? You have a firm date, Adele, or might you stay a little bit
right
longer?
Right now it's early December. So I've just got a couple of weeks left. There's a lot after 9 years to wrap up and get done. And this time of year is budgets and transition with board members to the new year. So some of that is just the normal stuff that would happen in November and December. So trying to get those things done, leave with a good plan set. We've already done calendar planning for the year. We start that in October or so, in a good place. But certainly for whoever has the opportunity to come in behind me, I certainly want things to be as settled as they can be. The chamber is very a moving target, very dynamic with a lot of different things always going on. So of course, not all of it can be absolutely nailed down, but have great staff here that knows what to do and have been around for a couple of years and have it under control. We'll have that, not they'll. I guess I'll still be involved with the chamber. I've been for so long, I don't know that I can get away completely. On February the 20th, I believe, is the annual meeting. So we've already got plans for that. So just trying to really make sure I leave things in a good place.
So yeah, it's a situation where after all these years, you decided that you wanted to change of pace. So you're not going to retire. You're not the kind of person, like when I retired, people looked at me and laughed and said, there's no way I would be able to stay retired. I did actually not work for almost 5 years. And I don't see doing this show actually as work. It's been a real honor to have the opportunity to stay connected with people like you and so many others. But you're not going to settle in to
no. I like to think I'm too young for that. And just I don't really know that I could. Some weekends when I don't have anything going on, I'm all of a sudden like, hey, what do I need? What do I need to do? Where do I need to go?
I get it. So you have clarity about what you're going to do next, or you just entertaining some options? What is it?
Entertaining some options. Still open to some options. So if there's somebody that thinks they have an opportunity that I'd be a good fit for, certainly interested in talking with them. Have a couple things in the works, some folks I'm talking to, but haven't nailed anything down. I'm really planning to take the month of December off, maybe a little bit into the first of the year, but it certainly, if something comes along that's of interest to me, I can move on that. But it'd be nice to have just a little breathing room, would really be nice over the holidays, especially.
Again, alluding to some of that experience that we talked about in that last segment. Well, first of all, you've got nonprofit experience, but that I wouldn't limit your thinking just to that, because you're a taskmaster. You're a goal-oriented person. You know how to take complicated stuff and align people and communicate and do all the things that are necessary to create, for example, a very successful chamber. But at the end of the day, your specific skills are incredibly adaptable. So for someone who really needs someone who will own outcomes, you're that person. So wherever you land, they're going to be lucky to have you. I just know that from my own personal experience. That is
well, sure. Thank you.
Hey, listen, you mentioned at the incubator, I just wanted to make one quick comment, because for people who are listening to this who may not appreciate what you said, sometimes when you are young and you enter into a role like leading the incubator, and power to Becky Montgomery Jenner for knowing that this would be a great opportunity for you. Speaking to Becky, incidentally, that this notion of what Zig Ziglar said so many times, help people get what they want out of life, and you'll get what you want out of life. If you take that approach, you'll do really well. Certainly she was taking that approach. You go into that job and you didn't know what you didn't know. And sometimes that's actually good, but you will learn in the line of fire. Either you will drown or you will survive. And so, as you pointed out, within a very relatively short period of time, you went from 3 tenants to that place being full and thriving for 15 years. I mean, think about the role you played. Think about the connections you made during that period.
Oh, yeah.
The success stories you saw emerge from the incubator and so on. What a great opportunity to kind of see the lay of the land. And you saw it, didn't you?
Yeah, just physically, when I started working there in 1991, June of 1991, it was a 2-lane road, Pops Ferry. There was nothing else around us. We were kind of out in the country, really, in Biloxi at that time. And everything grew up around us as Biloxi sort of moved north and west. We saw people not really understand what a small business incubator was, understand the resources. Still to this day, I'll have people that say, gosh, I wish I had known the Small Business Development Center was there. They've been around forever. If you're starting a business and you don't talk to them, you're wasting a resource that's there for you. So we help people write business plans, put together financial packages, that they could take to finance their business or get it started. Some people, of course, with an incubator could start pretty low monetarily, so they could move right in and get started. But we brought in some experts, just didn't rely on the staff or myself, that could meet with them about marketing, about accounting, about legal issues, and just trying to grow that business. But the people that were there, and the meetings that were held there, that we purposely opened our doors and let people come in and have meetings, because that was a way to get exposure. We also were a voting place for a little while. And that was kind of fun, because election day, it'd be packed, and we'd put about a big sign about who our tenants were and what they did. I mean, it was a marketing plan for me to get folks in, and they were in there all day, especially if it was a presidential election, the place would be full. So, yeah, I mean, the people I met there's some folks, certainly the guys from AGJ Systems and Networks were one of our big success stories. I work with them on a daily basis right now here at the chamber, and we've kind of grown together, and some other folks. It's just been really cool and really interesting, and most of them are still around.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I had this thought. You mentioned that when the incubator was there, Pops Ferry was a 2-lane street. When I get at the corner of Pops Ferry and Cedar Lake, I often think about what I used to see as a kid, because my dad, our family had a little fish camp. If you were to take the left there, by the way, I-10 wasn't there yet. So you head north. Before you got to the bridge, you took a right, and it was on in there on a peninsula. It was destroyed, unfortunately, when Hurricane Camille hit in 1969. But I remember that really distinct corner, because there was a sort of a cattle pasture on your left. That you would still have a pasture to your right, but the whole intersection used to look like that. It was a 4-way stop, and you took a left and whatever. Yeah. But it's amazing the progress that has happened, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that one shopping center came in, and there was a Winn-Dixie there, I think, or a grocery store for sure there. And then there was the golf course on the other side right there. And then there, like you said, there's still a patch of land over there that's kind of agricultural farm pasture. But there was a restaurant over there. I can't remember the name of it, that a lot of folks went to. It was the something saloon. I can't remember the name of it. It had
Yeah.
son of a gun
Yeah.
stew, which was kind of clean out the refrigerator, dump everything, and make some stew. That a lot of folks went to. It was kind of just a local joint. And it was just, like I said, a little 2-lane road with a ditch on either side. Now
Yeah.
it's a 4 or 5-lane road, all kind of development around there. But we were out there kind of all alone for a little while. The fire station got built out there, which was much needed. They went in. I remember when they went in with the fire hydrants. Before that, it was they weren't there. That was the part of the development of that part of the community. So one thing, though, we did get fiber really early out there because it was easy. There wasn't a whole lot of stuff in the way for them to put in fiber. So that was pretty cool for our businesses to have that type of internet access really early on, when everybody else was still using dial-up and stuff.
Listen, before we did the Night Center, Alberto sent me up to Princeton to visit the Robert Woods Johnson Foundation to get a sense of some of the stuff that they're doing in the community and whatever. But the incubator, in a way, was kind of helped you visualize the Night Center because of what you were doing there. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
People, a lot of nonprofits came to us at the incubator and wanted to move in. And we were very specifically for-profit businesses only. And so there was always this idea of we could probably do a nonprofit incubator facility. And so when we started here, I felt like, I really had some experience with that, how to do shared services, how to set up the building and et cetera. I mean, this building kind of dictated what we did, but it worked out fine. So it was something certainly was not foreign to me. So that was good experience in here.
What a big deal realizing that goal was. I mean, I think one of the great accomplishments of many, but one of the great accomplishments in the wake of Hurricane Katrina, the Night Center. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Adele Lyons. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. We're visiting with Adele Lyons. She's the CEO of the Coast Chamber, the Mississippi Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce. And it's an organization I was involved with from day one and continues to be an incredibly important voice of business. She's leaving the organization in early December after 9 years. Is it 9 years? 9 years or 7 years?
9 years.
9 years. That's right. 9 years. Amazing. And it's been a great ride, but you've got so much history here. When you look back at your time at the Coast Chamber, you came into an organization that was doing well. But like you say, man, it's like herding cats. There's a lot going on, lots of activities, lots to do. There's change, just change in general. There's so much happening in the business community that you can help facilitate, help teach and learn and whatever. When you look back on your time at the Chamber, what stands out mostly to you?
Well, I mean, definitely the biggest thing was the Chamber becoming accredited, which was not something that I did originally. That was already done when I got here. The first accreditation was done with Kimberly Nastasi and her team in 2014. So that lasts for 5 years, and then you have to reapply. And so going through that accreditation process, now we had sort of a roadmap, but 5 years, a lot changes, and you have to provide information on everything, the facilities, on your technology, on, your program of work, your bylaws, your governance. It's a huge binder. And it fills up a jump drive to send into the U.S. Chamber. Still to this day, the Mississippi Gulf Coast Chamber is the only accredited chamber in the state of Mississippi. Of the 7,000 chambers approximately in the United States, only 3% are accredited, and we're part of that 3%. So that's about 300 chambers in the U.S. And what that says is, you've adopted best practices. You got it together. You're not just winging it. you've had a thoughtful process about how you're going to run and how you're going to operate. And so that's been a huge deal for us. That comes up again in 2027. And so that's something I think the Coast Chamber will consider, continue to pursue. Establishing an investment account was a big deal. We did that in 2019. After Katrina, the chamber had some money in the bank, but it wasn't really enough to feel comfortable from a financial sustainability. Most people don't realize that a lot of nonprofits don't have reserves in the bank, and people kind of frown on that. They're like, why do you have money in the bank? You should be putting that towards your mission. But you don't know when a Katrina or a COVID or an oil spill is going to come up, and you don't know how that's going to affect your community or your membership. So, during Katrina, the chamber was open and available. During COVID, we were open the whole time. We were, like most other people, trying to figure out what we could do, how could we reach our members. Being a member of the U.S. Chamber really was very helpful to us because we had access to information through the U.S. Chamber, direct from SBA and the PPP program, et cetera, that we could share immediately with our members. But you got to have some money to rely on in case you need it for the rainy day. And so we decided to take the money that we had and put it into an investment account and let the market work for us. And that was a long-term strategy, just to leave that money alone. And it's been good for the chamber. It's something for the staff and the board and the membership. It's kind of just a peaceful, easy feeling knowing that if a big member drops or goes out of business or, you have some type of catastrophe, that you can get through that and continue to operate normally. So that's been a huge deal. And then getting over 1,000 members, which we had been over 1,000 members pre-Katrina. And then we saw that drop, and we really held steady during COVID. We didn't see a whole lot of drops in our membership. So we feel like people saw value and benefit to being a member. And so now we're at about 1,069, I think is the last I looked a couple days ago. We certainly have been concerned with the economy, and, folks were worried about expenses going up and businesses closing, and we've seen that kind of hold. We've held our own on that, but people have to make decisions, and it may be, as much as they value their chamber membership, it may be something that they decided to do away with. We've seen most people stick it out and find use in it.
You mentioned COVID, and of course you and I visited very regularly in those COVID days, from the beginning all the way through. And what I remember about that is, you mentioned this connection to the U.S. Chamber and so on. Man, that was hugely important to your membership, what you did to help them understand these various programs and how to implement them and how to apply for them and how to, cross the T's and dot the I's. Mm-hmm. But man, that's a case of, being in the trenches, just providing a service for your members. And what I loved about what you did, now that I said that, I'm saying it out loud and it hits me. I'm saying this service you provided for your members, but there were even non-members that you helped survive through that process. And it was just a beautiful thing to observe. The chamber really played its role in that moment. I will never forget it.
Well, thank you. We, like everybody else, just trying to navigate in the unknown. And the main thing we knew was people had computers, they had internet access, and they were on their computers at home just looking for information. So as much as we could get out quickly, and how to fill out a PPP package, and even what that meant and who was eligible for that, and et cetera. And then getting just other experts on the line talking about how you could market, online and et cetera. Just how people could pivot and change and continue to operate their business was something we just were always trying to think of ways to do that.
So many things. I mean, like one of the things I've observed, and I've enjoyed watching you do this, for so many years, the Salute to the Military was a big part of this community. You kept it, just, you basically updated it, made it respond to the sign of the times. And it's continued to go on well. But there's a lot of things like that the chamber has done that you've kept you've kept it going. The One Coast Awards that we started at the Sun Herald and handed over to the chambers, being a major coordinator of that multi-chamber effort. And man, is that important to recognize leaders and hold them up as examples. But again, so many things like that. The chamber has played such a critical role during your tenure in all of those areas.
Well, tradition is important, legacy is important, but you've got to, like you said, sort of change with the times. The salute to the military for the longest time was an evening event, formal wear. People just got to where they didn't want to go home on a Tuesday night after work, get dressed up and go to a dinner that was going to be 3 hours long. But we still needed to honor and salute our military. And so we moved that to a breakfast. And unfortunately, this year it had to be canceled due to the shutdown. We were scheduled for, I think it was October 2nd. So right after, and then we were scheduled again for December 2nd, which we've had to cancel that as well. I mean, it looks like things may work out, but you've got to have a lead time on an event that has 500 people coming to it. And so unfortunately, that won't happen this year. But we already have a date for October 15th of 2026. I mean, we're good to go on that. But talking about kind of the tradition and the legacy, and you talk about people you meet and the connections. I mean, we go back and look at, our past presidents, and we used to have a dinner or a lunch every year with all our past presidents. And I so look forward to having, Roland there and George Schlogel and, all the, Ron Perisic and Wes Fulmer and all those guys, Karen Sock and everybody come in for that. And it was just a way for the chamber to keep them connected as best we could. We always invited them all to the annual meeting as well as the Pat Santucci recipients. And just having access and getting to know those people certainly, as well as so many of our members that I wouldn't have come in touch with anywhere else, has been really the greatest part of the whole job and the whole experience.
When the story well, but when I started the Sun Herald Leadership Awards, now the One Coast Awards, and created the Roland Weeks Hall of Fame, there were two reasons I wanted to do that. One is that Roland, when he retired as the Sun Herald publisher, I didn't want him to just ride off in the sunset and be forgotten, because what he had taught us about us working together as a region and having one voice and all this that he had passed to me as my mentor, I wanted to make sure we didn't lose sight of that. So giving him that recognition. So that was one part. But the other was, we got him, we hooked him, and he stayed engaged, and he was able to inspire others in the process. And what a beautiful thing that is. I mean, listen, this show, you mentioned George Schlogel. I mean, gosh, man, the show that I did with Roland, the multiple shows I did with George Schlogel and others. I mean, now it's caught in this digital history book that we'll always be able to go back and hear their story from their mouths about what it was like and where we are today. Just, it's amazing. And the chamber, it's been integral to everything I just said. I mean, they're sort of the glue that brought everybody together, the nucleus of so much of what we did spun off from the chamber and the involvement in the chamber. Amazing. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Adele Lyons and, have a final segment with her. It's the last show we'll be doing with her before she leaves to go into her new career, whatever that's going to be. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. We're visiting with Adele Lyons, CEO of the Mississippi Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce, the Coast Chamber. She's been there for 9 years, and in early December, she's going to move on. Her choice, something she's just ready for a breath of fresh air, moving on into. She probably could retire, to be honest, but she's going to continue to work. So it's been a wonderful opportunity to kind of look back at her really enormous contributions to coastal Mississippi. One of the interesting things, I look at the calendar and I think about Coast Young professionals and so many things, from speed networking to the Ignite conference to Lord knows what. I mean, you and I could have spent an entire show just talking about the things the chamber does. And there's actually 3 things on the calendar as I'm looking at it that we need to look at before we get off today. But, it's been a pleasure to look back with you, Adele, to think about 9 years. You mentioned Kimberly Nastasi. I had the pleasure of mentoring her when I was publisher at the Sun Herald, and it's amazing to me now to think that it's been nine years since she moved on to Ingalls. But you've seen a lot of people pass through, not just in working for the chamber, but in various volunteer leadership roles. They've moved on in their career. They're CEOs, and I mean, you've literally seen people emerge in front of your very eyes, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, the perfect example of that is our current president, Jacavius Pickett, who started out in CYP. I think he said 10 years ago, and then he became the chair of the CYP. He participated in Leadership Gulf Coast, and he was the program chair, and that was a great experience working with him on that. And then he came onto the Coast Chamber Board and then moved into the board president for this year. He's at Ingalls as well and just has done a great job. But we've seen, just some of our past presidents that came along. I mean, Kathy Springer, that's a good example of where the chamber, our small business members are strong, but we also have some nonprofit members that recognize being a part of the business community in an organization like the chamber is an important place for them. And so to have her in a leadership role with that nonprofit United Way, kind of view was great. We've had some really small companies like Amber Olson with Next Staff in Ocean Springs. And then we've had, of course, the big companies, Tommy Murphy with Mississippi Power, Sam Sandoz with the Hancock Whitney, and just a smattering in between there. I'm leaving some people off, I know, but really just
if you start mentioning names, you start mentioning names, you're going to get in trouble because there's ultimately.
Dorothy Wilson. I mean, I can sit here and read off the list. Ron Barnes, who's getting ready to retire from Coast Electric. Ron and I went to Southern Miss together and we're in all of our marketing classes together. So it was always fun to work with him and have him. So look, he's moving on as well. But yeah, I mean, something like, and again, the Pat Santucci and just the people who've been division chairs of the chamber, of the various Biloxi chamber, like I was. That's kind of part of my role with the chamber too. In 1998, I was chair of the Biloxi Chamber, and that was tricentennial, so that was pretty cool.
It's amazing, so many stories to tell. And look, I look at the things that are coming up. Life goes on, even though you may be leaving in early December.
Yeah,
just in November alone, pre-legislative briefing, welcome social. You got the Chamber of Commerce breakfast with the mayor coming up. Let's see. I'm looking. We're doing a pre-taping on this. So yeah, the 18th. This is gonna be playing. So the 18th is important. So give me the quick review on those three items.
Yeah. So the pre-legislative briefing is something that's really a lot of people appreciate that because knowing what's happening in the legislature and keeping up with that is really hard. And so this will talk about what do we think is going to come up in next year's legislative session. So I think we have 7 members of the Coast delegation, both House members and Senate members, that will talk about the budget. We went into special session last year, and the state sales tax and infrastructure and all that will be discussed, and they'll give their thoughts on that as we move into the session starting in January. And then breakfast with the mayor in Biloxi is always nice. Mayor Gillich does about 3 or 4 of those a year. And so this will wrap up the year. And he just talks very candidly about what's going on and answers questions. And certainly there's some things there in Biloxi that will be interesting to hear his take. We usually have a lot of military personnel that come to that. So I'm hoping we'll be able to see some of those folks back again. It's been quite some time since they've been out in the community, the various leadership from Keesler and the 403rd unit. And then Chamber 101 is just something for people who may be interested in joining the chamber that want to learn more about it, and for our new members, but sometimes our old members need to come back for a refresher to understand what all benefits the chambers offer and make sure they're not missing out on something.
Adele, we know each other because you're very close to my wife's family. So I got to know you that way as well. But we've passed each other's trails 100 times. And my sense is we will, those trails will cross many more times in the future. And God bless you. Thanks for your great leadership role. I look forward to visiting with you again in whatever new role you're going to be in. But until then, God bless you.
Oh, thank you so much, Ricky. It's been great, and Kyle as well. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been terrific. This has been Adele Lyons from the Coast Chamber. Have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.